Hi everyone, welcome to New Bear. I'm Monique and today we are looking at split chains. I do have a video on split chains, but in that video we start our chain working front side back side and we finish traditionally. Today we're starting our chain traditionally and finishing front side back side. Now a lot of you are looking at me thinking, what on earth is she talking about? I will explain as we make our sample. Okay, so what are split chains?
The split chain is worked from each end of the chain into the middle, which allows us to climb from one round to the next without cutting and hiding ends. If we were working this green round, we started here, every chain would be a normal chain except for the last one. This would be a split chain. We'd work this side into the middle, then this side into the middle, putting our threads in the right position to climb out and continue with the next round, not a tail inside. The split isn't always in the middle. You might have a count of 6 on one side and 9 on the other. That all depends on your pattern. You can see this blue round connects to the green in the middle of the green chain. Our red round does the same thing. It connects in the middle of the blue chain. Perfect to work splits. However, we do have the option of working each round as normal chains and then just dealing with the ends. Let's look at what that would mean. If we worked with continuous thread for each round, we'd have 2 tails to hide per round. That would be 8 tails at the end. If we worked with 2 colours, we'd have 4 tails for each round, 2 at the beginning and 2 at the end, a total of 16. Or we can work split chains. Climb out from each round and have a total of either 2 or 4 tails to hide. We'd have 2 if we worked with continuous thread or 4 if we worked with 2 threads.
Now I'm not great at math, but 4 sounds a lot better than 16, and I'm yet to meet a tatter who enjoys hiding tails. Okay, so I will warn you, this little sample is not the prettiest thing I've ever created, but it serves a purpose. As I explained earlier, when you're working around with a split chain in it, all of those chains are going to be normal chains except for the last one. That's not ideal when you're teaching a class on split chains. That's a lot of normal chains you have to work to get one split chain. So that, combined with the fact that I had a student who really struggled with this technique, prompted me to create this design. I'm very proud of Linda's perseverance and determination to conquer split chains. She has absolutely nailed it. So it's because of Linda that I now have this little sample as part of my intermediate tatting class. I did get Linda's permission to share her name and throw her under the bus. I'm not taking the fall for this on my own. Let's go make some split chains.
So that we have a base to work our split chains off, I've made a ring with a count of 8, picot 4, picot 4, picot 8. Reverse your work. Technically we're on the back side of our ring, but now I want you to forget about the ring. The ring exists purely so we have picots for our chain to join back to. For the rest of the tutorial, when I talk about being on the front side or the back side of our work, I'll be referring to the chains only. So starting on what is now going to be the front side of our work, set your hand up for a chain. The first half of the chain is worked as normal. We're working traditionally, so our stitches are worked with the first half, followed by the second half. Our count is 6. Snug your chain. Take the core thread, leave a bare thread space and lock join to the next picot. Leave your lock join loose while we play with the length of our bare thread. The length of this bare thread needs to be about 3/4 of the length that we need to get from here to here. I can use this side of my chain to help me gauge the length this side needs to be because we have an equal split of 6. So we're doing this by eye. I reckon that looks to be about 3/4. When you're happy with the length of your split chain, tighten, the length of your bare thread, tighten your lock joint. This bare thread is the core for the second half of our split chain. We're going to come back and work our stitches this way, so both our threads finish meeting in the middle. As we're doing this, our core thread will stretch and pull away a bit, which is why we've made the length of the bare thread slightly shorter than the length of the first half of the chain. Turn your work. This puts us on the back side of our chain, so our stitches need to be worked second half, first half. Before we start working this chain, I did say I'd explain the whole front side, back side traditional thing. So if you tap front side, back side, you would have started this chain on the back side, and this half would have been worked in rods. You lock join, turn your work, placing you on the front side to make the second half of your split chain traditionally. There's a link for the front side, back side video down below for anyone who'd like to take a look. Okay, so today we started our chain on the front, working traditionally. You can see I have a full stitch at the end, left bare thread, and we've lock joined to our picot. Turn to the back, we're now working in rods. Continuing with shuttle 1, hold your work with your middle finger and your thumb. Take the thread behind your index finger, bring it over the top and in front of your bare thread. Coming from underneath the chain, grab that thread and pull a loop through to the back. Try and keep the other chain thread out of the way. Pass your shuttle through the loop. Take the slack out of the loop, but don't pull it tight. We need this loop on the other side of the bare thread. So drop the shuttle thread behind the bare thread, reach in through the top. We are not going for this loop that we just created. We're wanting the bare thread underneath. So come down and pull up that bare thread for another loop and pass your shuttle through. Remembering we're on the back side of our work, so we have the second half of our stitch, the belt, and the first half. Hold on to the belt and pulling the left side of the belt, if I can get a hold of it. We tighten the second half of our stitch, pulling on your shuttle thread. It's going to tighten the first half of our stitch. You can see we've finished on a half stitch. Turning my work over to the front, I have my lock join and then our full stitch. Let's go again. Hold the work between your middle finger and your thumb. Wrap from back to front. Get that other thread out of the way so we don't catch it. Come from underneath. Pull the loop through to the back. Pass that shuttle through. Drop that thread to the back, pull up another loop and run your shuttle through again. Again you can see the two halves of our stitches and our belt. Tighten the belt with second half first. and then the first half. We now have 2 stitches on our split chain, or on the second half of our split chain. As you get closer to the middle, it might look like you're not going to fit all the stitches in. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need another 2 stitches in here. But we want this side of our chain reasonably firm. So you can push both sides apart a little bit to fit the last couple of stitches in. You can see I've still got quite a bit of core thread in there. And that's okay, as long as it's not going to make the rest of your stitches really tight. We don't want it super tight because it'll make your chain buckle. Now you don't need to keep this loop on your finger either. If split chain's a new technique for you, I think it helps you to identify the loops, just until you know which one you're meant to be pulling up. I've got to get one more in there. I'm going to push that apart just a little bit to get that next half in there. And you can see we've got that half stitch on this side. On this side we have a full stitch. So if you want to work the little sample from here, we're swapping shuttles, wrapping our hand for the right side of our chain, and we're working 7. You can see how that's let us climb out to what would be the next round in a pattern. So again, snug that chain, come to the next picot and lock join, leaving your bare thread space. Play with that length until you get it where you think is about 3/4, and then lock that stitch down. Reverse your work and start keep that other thread out of the way. Start your second side of your split chain. Okay, let's talk colours. I always work with two colours for my videos. It makes it easier for you guys to follow. But today it also highlights what happens when we use two colours for a split chain. The first half of the chain is worked normally, so my green working thread shows. Second half of the chain, the core thread is core and working thread, so my purple thread shows. Now, variegated threads are really pretty, but be aware that the variegation is unlikely to match up in a split chain. Maybe that matters, and maybe it doesn't.
Okay, so I may have had a little bit of a brain fade there at the end, working my last chain as 9-13 instead of 13-13, but I did say split chains aren't always equal. I'm going to hang on to that one. I'll see you next time.